Welcome to Conspiracy Theory Monday on What If I Told You? Hey, I'm Jason here. This isn't really a conspiracy theory, but it is a theory, and I'm going to add it by saying this, okay? So you all know Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea, who runs the Hermit Kingdom, one of the most secretive and closed-off countries in the world, if not the most closed-off country. And of course, this is a country whose horrific rule has been run by the Kim Dynasty now for the past since 1948. We're closing in on 80 years of this, but the country seems to be getting a little bit weaker and weaker and weaker over the past decade or so. This is a country that's not been able to feed itself, and food rations have always been distributed by the state until the last decade or so. You know, now you've got open markets because people have to eat, and so people now there's now a underground capitalist economy in the country that Kim Jong Un, the ruler, initially put up with it first because there was no choice in the matter. Otherwise, these people were just going to starve, and he was not going to have a country left to rule. Now, he has since cracked down on this, and so. But here's the theory. There's a lot of things going on within the country right now that could lead to its downfall and could lead to the Kim family being removed from power. But what if I told you that the thing that could remove Kim Jong-un from power in North Korea could actually be Xi Jinping, the supreme ruler of China? Now ride with me through this one here for a little bit, okay? It's not been a secret that the China-North Korea alliance has not always been on the best of terms, and this is one of them. It's also not been a secret that China has supported North Korea, and this has been true ever since the Korean War in the late 40s and early 50s. Beijing has always supported and propped up the existence of the Pyongyang regime. This happened in the Korean War, of course, when the South almost overtook the entire country. But then the Chinese showed up with millions of soldiers to push that back, and it got pushed back to the 38th parallel, which is the current demarcation line. And it's where the DMZ sits these days. But where Kim messed up with Xi is the development of the nuclear weapons program. Now, he doesn't want to have an American-backed South right on his border, which is why they pushed them back to the 38th parallel to begin with. However, Xi has not made it a secret that he doesn't want a nuclear-armed North Korea. He doesn't want them using those weapons. He doesn't want any shenanigans on the peninsula that could possibly interfere with his country. And a nuclear bomb on the Korean Peninsula would actually basically do just that. And so I've set the table here on this one. Xi would certainly have a motivation to have Kim Jong-un Maduro'd, if you will, which is basically what the U.S. did in Venezuela with Nicolas Maduro as a dictator there as well. But Xi would have motivation to do the same thing with Kim, because, and here's how this would go down. Obviously, Xi would use the American template to basically physically remove Kim Jong-un from his own country. Now, would he take him out as far as the loss of life is concerned, similar to what happened in Iran with Ali Khamenei? Probably not. I think Xi would be motivated to give him a more peaceful exit, which would align with his desires for the peninsula as a whole. That he doesn't want to have a South Korean nation up on his border and have a border directly with an American-backed country, but he needs to keep that buffer between Western-backed South Korea and his own country. Hence, what I believe would happen is something like this. He takes out Kim Jong-un, moves him to Beijing or Shanghai, keeps him held up in relative luxury, especially compared to the rest of his people. He is replaced in North Korea by a Xi regime-backed person, somebody who might already be within the North Korean regime or possibly not. Who he would choose, that would kind of be up to him. It would be up to Xi, and I'm not entirely sure how that would work. I'm not in a position to really ask him, but that is, in my mind, the most likely scenario for how the Kim regime is going to fall. In that Xi Jinping, who has a vested interest in actually watching him disappear, would do it himself to maintain peace and, more importantly for him, influence over Asia. This would expand Xi's influence, and he would probably be able to introduce, he would open that country up a little bit more to the world, but I think it would have to be gradual implementation of a Chinese-style economy. It would not be a Western-style capitalist society. Xi would not be interested in that at all. But would it be a little bit more open, and would he use North Korea for that? There's also one other thing that he would very much likely use North Korea for, and that is this. North Korea also has a large number of rare earth minerals and possibly even gemstones. And they have a lot of natural resources that have not been harvested because the present day Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which is their official name, DPRK, because the country does not have the ability to harvest those minerals. China, on the other hand, does. And so once he takes out the Kim dynasty, Xi would possibly go in there with Chinese companies and harvest those rare earth minerals. Some of those rare earth minerals are instrumental in some of the technology that China already produces. It's an important part of their trade with the United States, as a matter of fact, is that they have had to trade with us to get some of those minerals and materials. They won't have to. Xi won't have to as much anymore if he was to obtain control over the North Korean part of the peninsula. And of course, being direct neighbors, transportation would be a snap. So there you go. I happen to believe that the most likely end of the Kim dynasty would involve Xi Jinping taking out Kim Jong-un. Again, probably keeping him alive. He might be given the Bashar al-Assad treatment because he fled to Russia from Syria as Syria's dictator. And he is presently housed in Moscow. And his family is housed in an apartment. They have no political involvement whatsoever. And I believe this could be the similar fate for Kim Jong-un and his family. So anyway, Conspiracy Theory Monday. Hope you enjoyed this one. I will talk to you guys all later on, and we'll see you next time. Peace out, homies.